the internet.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Let me ask you something. This morning, before you got out of bed, how many of you checked your phone? Before you brushed your teeth? Before you made coffee? Before you said good morning to the people in your home? You checked. Maybe it was the news. Maybe it was messages. Maybe you're not even sure why you checked. You just did. Like a reflex, like breathing. Now let me ask a second question. Do you remember life before you could do that? Some of you do, and some of you, especially the younger faces I see, genuinely cannot picture a world where you couldn't look anything up in seconds, where you couldn't talk to someone on the other side of the planet for free, where finding directions meant unfolding a paper map on the hood of a car in a parking lot, squinting at tiny text. That world existed. Most of human civilization happened in that world. And then, in a geological eye blink, the internet arrived. And nothing was ever the same again. Today, I want to talk to you about the internet. Not just what it is in technical terms, but what it means, where it came from, what it has given us, what it has taken from us, where it is going, and most importantly, what we choose to do with it. Because the internet is not just a tool sitting on a shelf, it is the environment in which modern human life unfolds, and we would be wise to understand it. Part 1. Origin Story. Where did this all begin? To understand the internet, we need to go back not to Silicon Valley in the 1990s and not to a garage in Menlo Park. We need to go back to the Cold War. The year is 1957. The Soviet Union launches Sputnik, a metal ball the size of a beach ball, into orbit, and the United States panics. Not just because a rival superpower has reached space, not because military planners realize something terrifying. If nuclear war ever comes, a single bomb on a communications hub could knock out the entire US command and control system. All of it gone in an instant. So, the US Department of Defense funds a research agency, ARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, and asks a quite brilliant question. Can we build a communications network that has no single point of failure? One that can survive an attack and keep functioning? The answer developed through the 1960s was EPRANET. Instead of sending messages through a central switchboard, EPRANET broke data into small packets, sent each packet independently across multiple routes, and reassembled them at the destination. If one node was destroyed, the packets simply found another path. It was radical, it was elegant, and in 1969, on October 29th, the first message was sent between computers at UCLA and Stanford. The message was supposed to be login, Login. They got as far as low before the system crashed. LO, LO. Perhaps the most accidentally poetic first verse ever transmitted, as if the internet itself was saying hello in the oldest, most casual way possible. From those humble beginnings, APRANET grew, universities connected, researchers began sharing data, scientists discovered they could collaborate across distances, and slowly a culture emerged, a culture of open sharing, of peer to peer exchange, of building together. Then, in 1991, a British scientist named Tim Berners-Lee, working at a physics laboratory in Switzerland, invented the World Wide Web, a system of linked documents accessible through a browser. He did not patent it. He did not try to own it. He gave it to the world for free. Let that sink in for a moment. One of the most transformative inventions in human history given away, no strings attached, and within a decade, everything changed. By 2000, there were 400 million internet users worldwide. By 2010, 2 billion. Today, as we stand here, more than 5 billion people, roughly two-thirds of all humanity, are connected to the internet. Two-thirds of humanity connected right now. The printing press took 300 years to fully transform society. The internet did it in 30. Part 2. What the internet gave us. Now, I don't want to be a naive or starry-eyed about this. We'll get to the difficult parts. But first, I want us to genuinely appreciate, to feel what the internet has given humanity. Because the list is staggering. First, the democratization of knowledge. For most of human history, knowledge was locked behind walls, behind library doors that closed at 5 p.m., behind university gates that required tuition, behind books that cost money, behind languages few could read. The internet broke those walls. Today, a teenager in rural Kenya with a smartphone can access MIT's full course catalog for free. A self-taught programmer in Vietnam can learn from the same YouTube tutorials as a student at Stanford. A grandmother in rural India can video call a doctor. A kid in a struggling school district can teach herself calculus, learn a second language, read Shakespeare's, oh, study the stars. The sum of human knowledge, millennia of art, science, history, philosophy, music, is available to anyone with a connection. That is unprecedented in the history of civilization. Second, the collapse of distance. I want to tell you a story. My friend's grandfather came to this country as an immigrant. He left his family behind. For years, he could communicate with them only through letters that took weeks to arrive and very expensive phone calls, maybe once a month on holidays when everyone gathered around the phone like it was sacred. Today, his grandchildren video call their cousins across the ocean every week. They play video games together. They celebrate birthdays together on screen. They have grown up knowing each other despite living thousands of miles apart. The internet did not just make communication faster, it changed the nature of human relationships across distance. It made geography matter less. It allowed families to stay families. It allowed friendships to form between people who would never have met. Third, economic transformation. The internet did not just change how we communicate, it changed how we work, shop, earn, and build. Small businesses that once could only reach customers in their town can now sell to the world. A craftsperson making handmade goods in a small apartment can run a global business from her kitchen table. Freelancers can find clients on other continents. Entrepreneurs can launch companies with almost no physical infrastructure. The gig economy, for all its complications, which we'll discuss, created income opportunities for millions of people who needed flexibility. Remote work, supercharged by the internet, has allowed people to live where they want to live rather than where their office is. And then there's e-commerce. In 2023, global e-commerce sales exceeded $5 trillion. 5 trillion. The internet became the world's largest marketplace. Fourth, giving voices to the voiceless. Perhaps the most human gift the internet gave us was this. For the first time in history, ordinary people could publish their thoughts to the world without needing a printing press, a TV studio, or a newspaper editor's permission. Before the internet, your voice reached maybe hundreds of people at most, your family, your neighbors, your community. If the gatekeepers of media didn't choose you, your story didn't get told. The internet changed that. Activists in authoritarian countries found each other online and organized. Whistleblowers exposed corruption. Patients with rare diseases connected and shared medical information that saved lives. Artists who didn't fit mainstream molds found their audiences. Communities of people who'd always felt isolated by geography, by identity, by experience found that they were not alone. The Arab Spring, hash me too, Black Lives Matter, climate activism. Every major social movement of the last 15 years was organized, amplified, and spread in part through the internet. That is real, that is meaningful, and we should not minimize it. Part 3, the shadow side. But there is always a but. Every powerful technology in human history has carried a shadow alongside its light. Fire warms homes and burns them down. Nuclear energy powers cities and destroys them. The printing press spread both the Enlightenment and genocidal propaganda. The internet is no different. And we are truly honest, unflinchingly honest, we have to look at the shadow. The misinformation crisis. The same open architecture that allows knowledge to flow freely also allows lies to flow freely. And here's the problem: lies are often more interesting than the truth. They are designed to be. They trigger outrage, fear, disgust, the emotions that make us share, react, and click. Research from MIT found that false news spreads 6 times faster on social media than true news. 6 times. Not because people are stupid, but because misinformation is engineered to exploit our psychology. We are now living in what many scholars call an epistemic crisis, a crisis of knowledge itself. When millions of people can no longer agree on basic facts, on what is real, on who to trust, democracy fractures, communities fracture, families fracture. I have sat at dinner tables where people cannot talk to their own relatives anymore because they have been radicalized by different corners of the internet into believing entirely different realities. That is not trivial, that is a profound and tragic thing. The attention economy. The internet, particularly social media, was not designed to make you happy or informed. It was designed to keep your attention because attention is the commodity. Your eyeballs are the product being sold to advertisers. And the way to capture attention is not to show you the most important or truthful information, it's to show you the most emotionally activating information, the most enraging, the most titillating, the most tribal. Every scroll, every like, every notification, these are not accidents. They are the result of billions of dollars of engineering and psychological research designed to keep you on the platform as long as possible. We are, many of us, living in the grip of a system that was optimized to exploit the vulnerabilities of the human brain. And we didn't sign up for that. We signed up to stay in touch with our friends. The mental health crisis among young people. I want to talk about our children because what is happening to the young people, particularly young girls, is a genuine crisis, and the internet is at the center of it. In the years since smartphones and social media became ubiquitous among teenagers, roughly 2012 onwards, rates of anxiety, depression, and self harm among adolescents have risen sharply in nearly every country that tracks them. Psychologist Jean Twenge has documented this in disturbing detail. The generation that grew up with smartphones is, by many measures, more anxious, more depressed, and lonelier than any generation before it, despite being more connected than any generation before it, or perhaps because of it. Social media gives young people a curated, filtered, often artificial view of other people's lives and an unrelenting invitation to compare themselves, their body, their popularity, their achievements, their happiness, measured constantly, publicly, in likes. That is a brutal environment for a developing identity, and we should be honest about the harm it causes. Digital divide and the new inequalities. Finally, and perhaps most quietly devastating, the internet has not lifted all boats equally. While two-thirds of humanity is connected, one-third, roughly 2.5 billion people, is not. And the unconnected are disproportionately the poorest, the most rural, the most marginalized. In a world increasingly organized around internet access, To be offline is to be shut down from jobs, from education, from healthcare, from civic participation. And even among those who are technically connected, there are vast differences in the quality of access, the digital literacy to use it well, and safety from its harms. The internet has created new forms of exclusion alongside its expansions of possibility. Part 4. The internet today. Where are we now? So, where does all this leave us today? We are at a fascinating and deeply uncertain moment in the internet's history. Let me describe what I see. The consolidation of power. The early internet was decentralized, wild, chaotic, wonderfully weird. There were millions of individual websites, forums, communities, a genuine ecosystem of diversity. Then five companies happened: Google, Apple, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft. Today, these five corporations mediate the vast majority of human activity online. They control the search, they control the social feed, they control the cloud, they control the app stores. The early dream of an open, distributed internet has in many ways been replaced by a handful of walled gardens controlled by the richest companies in human history. This is not just an economic concern. When your information flow is controlled by five companies, when what news you see, what products you encounter, what voices reach you are all determined by their algorithms and business interests, that is a profound concentration of cultural and political power. Artificial intelligence changes everything. Again, again, and now, layered on top of all of this, we have artificial intelligence, a technology that is changing the internet as fast as the internet once changed everything else. AI generated text, images, video, and voice are flooding the internet. The challenge of distinguishing real from synthetic content is becoming genuinely difficult. Deepfakes, AI written articles, synthetic personas, the floor of trust, the basic assumption that what you see is what exists is eroding. At the same time, AI is making the internet more powerful, more useful, more accessible than ever. Translation tools are dissolving language barriers. Medical AI is helping diagnose diseases. Educational AI is personalizing learning in ways human teachers physically cannot. We are right now in the middle of a transformation as significant as the invention of web itself, and we do not know where it leads. Regulation begins. Governments around the world are waking up slowly, imperfectly, to the reality that the internet cannot be treated as an unregulated frontier forever. The European Union has passed landmark legislation on data privacy, on digital markets, on AI governance. Conversations about antitrust, about content moderation, about platform responsibility are happening in legislatures everywhere. It is messy, it is contentious, it is far from resolved, but the era of move fast and break things, the unofficial motto of Silicon Valley, is hopefully ending because we have seen what was broken. Part 5: The Future, What Comes Next. Now, I want to ask the question that I think matters most. What do we want the internet to be? Not what it is, not what it has been. What do we choose to make it? Because here is something important to understand. The internet is not a force of nature. It is not gravity or weather. It is a human construction. Every algorithm, every design choice, every policy, these are human decisions made by specific people with specific values and incentives, which means they can be made differently. Universal access as a human right. I believe that in the 21st century, internet access should be understood as basic human right, as fundamental as electricity or clean water, not a luxury, not a commodity sold to the highest bidder. There are meaningful efforts in this direction. Satellite internet systems are beginning to reach the most remote corners of the planet. Community mesh networks are being built in undeserved areas. Some nations have declared internet access a right in their constitutions. We should push further, faster, designing for human flourishing, not engagement. We need to demand a different design philosophy from the platforms that shape our information environment. The question cannot only be how do we maximize time on platform? The question must be does this make people's lives better? Does it inform? Does it connect? Does it support mental health? Some companies are beginning to respond to this pressure, implementing time limits, reducing algorithmic amplification of outrage, providing tools for healthier use. It is not enough, but it is a beginning. Parents, educators, regulators, all of us have a role in pushing this harder. Digital literacy as a core education. We teach children to read. We should teach them to navigate the internet with equal seriousness. How do you identify misinformation? How do you evaluate a source? How does an algorithm work? And why does it show you what it shows you? What are your rights regarding your data? How do you protect your privacy? How do you manage your own attention and well being online? These are survival skills for the 21st century, and we are failing to teach them to the next generation with the urgency they deserve. Building the internet we want. And finally, the most powerful thing of all, the internet is not just something that happens to us, it is something we participate in. Every site you visit, every community you join, every post you share, every person you support or ignore, you are shaping what the internet is. If you engage with thoughtful journalism, it survives. If you amplify careful analysis rather than clickbait, it spreads. If you build communities of good faith, they thrive. If you use your voice to speak truth, it reaches people. The internet is not finished. It is being written right now by billions of people simultaneously, including you. Conclusion. Coming back to this morning, I want to come back to where we started this morning. Before you got out of bed, before the coffee, you checked your phone. That moment, that tiny, automatic, reflexive moment contains the entire history I have been describing. The Cold War engineers who wanted a network that couldn't be destroyed. The Berners Lee giving his invention to the world. The entrepreneurs and programmers and designers who built the apps in your pocket. The billions of people whose content and conversation fill those feeds. The researchers studying what it does to your brain. The activists pushing for something better. All of that compressed into a glowing rectangle. First thing in the morning. The internet is, without question, one of the most remarkable things humanity has ever made. It has connected us across distance and language and culture in many ways that were unimaginable a century ago. It has unlocked knowledge and opportunity and voice for billions of people who were shut out of those things before. It has also created new forms of harm, new vulnerabilities, new concentrations of power, new threats to democracy and mental health and truth itself. It is, in other words, deeply, thoroughly human. Like every great tool we have ever made, it reflects both the best and worst of what we are, our generosity and our greed, our creativity and our cruelty, our longing to connect and our capacity to divide. The question is never whether technology is good or bad. The question is always, what do we choose to do with it? We are the first generations to live this fully inside the internet. We didn't choose that, but we are choosing every day in small and large ways what it becomes. We choose what we share and what we ignore. We choose what we allow our children to see and what we teach them about navigating it. We choose which companies we support and which we hold accountable. We choose whether we engage as thoughtful citizens or passive consumers. The internet will continue to evolve faster than we expect in directions we can't fully predict. Artificial intelligence will reshape it again. New platforms will rise, old ones will fall, new harms will emerge, new possibilities will open. But at the center of all of it, underneath every algorithm, every server, every piece of fiber optic cable running along the ocean floor are human beings, billions of them, searching for connection, for understanding, for community, for meaning. This is what the internet at its best offers, the possibility of reaching across all the distances of geography, of culture, of background, and saying, I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. The internet is 30 years old as a public technology. In the life of a civilization, that is nothing. We are still in the very first chapter of this story. What happens next is up to us. Thank you.